My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. And we got a lot to talk about, don't we? Holy smokes, a lot's been going on. I've had zero coffee this morning, so I'm waiting for my coffee to cool off. So bear with me if my brain is not working on full brain power till I get some coffee in me. We got a lot of things going on. I want to talk about that parade, the Army parade, which was spectacular. I mean, that was really an amazing parade. I knew the parade was going to be great. I mean, didn't you? But it was a whole different thing actually watching it as opposed to knowing it was coming up. And it was so spectacular and wonderful to see American pride back, right? Yes, happy Father's Day to everyone. My daughter's coming up to the house later this morning for Father's Day. And that parade, I don't know if I didn't fully realize what the point of the parade was until I was watching it. So I'll tell you what I think. There were a couple of main points of the parade beyond just the birthday of the Army, and one of them is, of course, to bring back American pride with young people. The Democrats, they have been going around since the 60s screaming at the top of their lungs that America is all these terrible things. And, when I was young, when I was 5, is when we had the bicentennial in 1976. So even after Vietnam and Watergate, we had the bicentennial, and then a few years later we had the Reagan era. There was a big sense of American pride and loving of America and everything, and that's been lost because of these twisted liberals. So one of the purposes of the parade, beyond celebrating the 250th anniversary of the Army that gave us our liberty from England, is that bring back American pride, a love of America, American excellence, and also the Army parade. A little more specifically, is President Trump wanted to show the world how big and bad the United States military is, and how bad our soldiers are. Bad in a cool way, you know what I mean? And part of that was showing that they've cleaned up the military, they've cleaned up the Army, and it's not filled with transgender soldiers and officers anymore. I mean, I remember one time in the last couple of years, they had this meeting of high-ranking officers like colonels and lieutenant colonels and things, and they were at some round table talking, different branches, Air Force and everything, and they were all transgender. And what kind of message does that send to the world about the strength of the United States military? So that was another purpose of it, but it was just absolutely amazing. And I loved how they had the soldiers in the period uniforms from the different wars. That was pretty cool. No doubt about that. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was pretty awesome. I really liked it a lot. This coffee's boiling hot. You cried a lot. I'll tell you the part that I the thing about that parade, you said you cried. The part I thought where it got emotional, at least for me, is when they played the Band of Brothers theme with the World War II. See, part of the thing that's been lost is these millennials and Gen Z. Like, my dad was in Vietnam, my grandfather was in World War II. A lot of people my age, their dad was in Vietnam, grandfather in Korea, World War II, things like that. And you can go back. This generation of the millennials, like the AOC, Mayor Pete generation, and younger, they don't have any appreciation for the sacrifice that all these different eras of soldiers gave. Like, one of the things they did in that parade, when they did the period uniforms, is they showed the war, right? The Civil War, World War II, right? The global war on terror. Remember how they did that? The forgotten war, the Korean War. And you go through that. A lot of men suffered, and not just the men too. Their families. They suffered and they gave their life for the cause that that war was for, and that's why we have the freedom for these blue-haired lunatics to go on TikTok and start screaming about the evils of America, and they just have no understanding the sacrifice that has been made for us to have this great country and everything that we have in it. You know, you could go through every war and point out the examples, and there's just zero appreciation for that. In fact, they hate them. I mean, you know, the those the Civil War soldiers. I mean, you got Black Lives Matter and people that run around with all this nonsense. You know, about 1 million Americans died in the Civil War to free the slaves. You know, I mean that's think about that. And about a million Americans died in the war to free the slaves. And there's been this, you know, we talk about like these big lies, like the big party switch, one of the big Democrat lies. One thing that they've been very successful in is selling this idea to a lot of people. The Civil War wasn't about slavery; it was about states' rights. It was about the states' rights to own slaves. The only issue was that. So, no, don't let them tell you it was anything other than about freeing the slaves, because that's what it was about. And those guys that lost their lives in the Civil War, most of them didn't own a slave or even see a slave in their life. A lot of them, right? And they sacrificed their life for that. And you have BLM types out there talking about how evil this country is. You know, it's and you see those soldiers from World War I and World War II. I mean, you could go through every war, and see what they've sacrificed and why we have what we have today. So the parade, part of the parade was about many things, but a lot of it is about the things I've been talking about today. Maybe some of the biggest parts of it were about that. Now, yesterday I went to the No Kings event in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I made a very, very good vlog. In fact, it may be my best vlog I've ever made, and I uploaded it for my Patreon supporters. I won't be uploading it here on YouTube or anywhere, but if you're one of my paid Patreon supporters, you can see that vlog for free if you go up there and you're a paid Patreon supporter. But I'm not going to upload it here on YouTube. For Patreon supporters only, but I'll tell you a little bit about it. I went undercover into the crowd, and let me tell you, it was a large number of people. By the time it reached it, there were a couple of thousand people there at the No Kings event in Fort Lauderdale. It was on Fort Lauderdale Beach, and what I did is I went through and interviewed these lunatics, and it's unbelievable. I mean, and they're all there, and I showed things in this vlog that no one else will show, and that's why it's exclusive to Patreon supporters. Because what I did yesterday, when I was going there, I did a live stream yesterday morning when I was going to the No Kings event. I didn't tell you which one because they had a whole bunch in my area, about half a dozen of them. Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Boca Raton, Coral Springs, Palm Beach, Delray. They were all over the place. And I went to the one in Fort Lauderdale, which was on the Fort Lauderdale Beach, Sunrise Boulevard and A1A. And I asked you guys, should I leave my MAGA hat in the car? Everybody said yes, so I did. I went undercover. I left my MAGA hat in the car, and I went into the crowd and interviewed them. And it was pretty crazy and amazing. The things they said to me are the reason that it's only available to Patreon supporters. Okay, and I got a lot of really good behind the scenes. I saw their boxes, and I show all of this. of the fake signs that they brought, that they handed out to people, so it looked like the people made the signs at home. They were training. I infiltrated their. It's crazy. I infiltrated their organizers, right? The organizing group, who were trying to teach the other leaders in this group how to say the different chants. What is democracy about, and all this stuff, So I got there when they were trying to teach themselves the chants that they were going to share, and oh my goodness, it was crazy. And then I went through the crowd when everybody showed up, and I went through with this microphone I'm holding now and interviewed them. And a lot of them were holding signs, and I would ask them to tell me about their sign, and I'd have a conversation with them. And they were very forthcoming with their stupidity and liberal lunacy. But that video is available for Patreon supporters only. You got to be a paid Patreon supporter. And there's a link to my Patreon page in the description of this and all my videos and podcast episodes. But you will definitely enjoy it. Plus, it is on the beach. I started in the water. In fact, I'm wearing my Vans I wore yesterday. I've got sand in these Vans. Okay? I've got sand in my Vans from being at the beachside Fort Lauderdale No Kings event yesterday. And my friend Dan, he joined me there. Dan, he is one of our listeners that goes on our MAGA cruises, and he's a friend of mine. And he met me over there and went through the group with me. So we had a good time. So those of you that are Patreon supporters that have seen the video already, I can't wait to hear your feedback. But what a bust that was. Trump doesn't care what anyone thinks who's opposed to him. This incident in Minnesota with this Tim Walz guy that's on the run. This is the Is this the second? I think it's the second, not the third. This is the second Tim Walz staffer, because he appointed this guy that's been involved in violence. Right? We got this guy yesterday, and then there was the Tesla guy that he had, the Tesla terrorist guy that he had working for him. Tim Walz, he's out there on the speaking circuit, but there's an epidemic of violence among the people that Tim Walz hires and appoints to positions as governor, right? Yeah, I mean, could you imagine if we had MAGA people running around like that, that were personal appointees of the president? That's all you'd hear about. No. The Democrats are out of power. They're going to be out of power for a long, long time. They're going to be out of power for a long, long time. Walz is believed to be a CCP agent. That's what people think, Remember when they were during the campaign, they were trying to get this thing calling him coach? They for some reason, it's like in this video that I made at the No Kings. There's this one part where I show the organizers are trying to memorize these chants that one of them has written on the car. They're repeating them and trying to get them memorized. They pull out this stepladder, and they had like 4 or 5 guys that were part of the organizers in the No Kings. None of them could open up a stepladder. I mean, because they're so liberal, they're just not manly. I obviously did not go and help them, but I got it on the video, which you got to see. It's hilarious. And the Democrat Party doesn't understand what real men are like and about. So for some reason, they decided that Tim Walz was the average American man. Fat, pompous asshole, right? He's the standard white man. Fat, pompous, and an asshole. And they thought if they got this thing going, that if they called him Coach, they'll really, if we call him Coach Walz, that'll really get him going. Everything about the Democrats is just fake. And that fizzled out. That fizzled out. Coach. I could use some ice in this hot coffee. It is steaming hot. We are getting America back. Yeah. He puts tampons in the boys' room, but he's coach. That's the kind of coach you want to keep away from your young men. You don't want Coach Walz around your young men. I mean, he puts tampons in the boys' room. What's that about? Never heard of something like that. Yeah. Now, if you're new to my channel, my name's Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure that you subscribe. If you're new, you'll love this channel. I promise you. Yeah, the main story that I'm concerned about is this war with Israel and Iran. And I don't... let me ask you guys, yes or no. Do you think Donald Trump approved of this attack? I've been asking this to people the last couple of days. Do you believe that President Trump approved of this attack well in advance? Or do you think what we've heard publicly is true, that he told Netanyahu not to do it? I'm not asking if he knew. He knew in advance. Did he approve of it well in advance? Or not well in advance, like weeks, months in advance? What do you think? A lot of people say yes. I'm going to tell you, I'm not sure. And I don't think any of us are sure. But majority of people in here are saying yes. I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter if he approved of it well in advance or not. It happened. Right? So he's got to deal with it. And this is one that I am so nervous about. This could so spiral out of control. A lot of what direction it goes relies on the relationship the president has with these other Middle Eastern countries. Trump gave him 60 days to make a peace deal. Yeah, Trump said that on Truth, and this was day 61, yeah. Now, I was talking to someone yesterday who has a lot of knowledge about what's going on in Israel and politics and the goals, and I'd asked them, I don't want to say who it is, but because I think they kind of told me this in confidence, but without attributing it to them, right? So I'll tell you, and I said, well, what's the goal of this? And they told me it is the complete removal of the Islamic State. It's total regime change in Iran. And I'd asked, well, who would take over? And apparently, there's a successor of the Shah around, which I was not aware of. Any of you guys know this? I'm going to read up on this guy because I don't know anything about him. But there is a successor to the Shah alive who's very active, apparently, and well-known in these circles. So what this person told me is that the goal of Israel is 100% regime change and return the Shah to power. Now, I don't have a confirmation of that, but that's what... Is it the Shah's son? Is it his son? I know nothing about him. I'm going to look into him. They got the killer? Good. Oh, I knew that he had family here, but it is his son? Okay, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's realistic. Regime change in Iraq, but he told me that's Israel's goal. 100% regime change, put the Shah in power. And I don't know how, it's hard to know how accepting the people of Iran would be towards the Shah's return, right? Because a lot of, pretty much everything we know about the Shah's reign of Iran is told through the lens of people who hated the Shah. Jessica says it's Netanyahu trying to save himself. Yeah, a lot of people think that too. I question the timing of it. With this Russia-Ukraine war going on, or Israel still dealing with Gaza, the timing, and regime change didn't go well in Iraq for years and years and years. It's a very difficult thing. I mean, Look at Afghanistan. We were told that the people of Afghanistan were living in fear of the Taliban. They hated the Taliban. Remember Kite Runner and all that stuff, and now here they are back, put back in power by our own government. So who's to say that we really have knowledge that the people of Iran want regime change and would accept the Shah? Right? Well, what they've been doing is not working. And, what should have happened in the world of should, that's a lot of pointless discussions and I'm a big supporter of Israel. Absolutely, I'm a big supporter of Israel. So right now it's going on. So we got to deal with the hand that we've been dealt with the Israel-Iranian war. If they have nukes that are operational, they'll use them in this war. Because it's going to get very desperate for them. Israel. I heard someone say yesterday that Israel's going to deplete their rockets from the Iron Dome because they're firing off so many rockets in retaliation. They have an endless supply of weapons from the United States, okay? So Israel is never going to run out of anything because we're going to continue to supply them forever. Well, one of the things Iran has going against them, they got to be very careful when they retaliate against Israel because for their own people's sake, because so many of their holy sites are in Jerusalem, right? The spot where Muhammad, they believe, ascended to heaven on his horse Barak. Yes, happy Father's Day to everybody. But we got another war going on. I was listening to Charlie Kirk on Friday. He's like, we didn't vote for another war. He is not happy. Yeah. Well, thank you, Hank. Yeah, guys, make sure that you subscribe. Yep, the Dome of the Rock. That's absolutely right, Mike. Yeah, when I was in college, I took a class, 2 semesters, the whole history of Islam, 1 and 2. It was like, up to a certain year and then up till, I guess, the War on Terror. Took the whole history of Islam. Well, I learned a lot. But these wars are just awful. Hopefully this one gets over sooner rather than later. Home Depot. Yeah, there's a Home Depot right here. There's a Home Depot right over here. I got 2 Home Depots around me. Yeah, I'm going to run into a problem with this because my the guy that mows my lawn, he comes every other week, and he didn't come this week. And if he doesn't come this week, I'm going to have to hire a new lawn crew. This guy's been my lawn guy for years, but like maybe 5 years. But lawn guys, they just disappear on you. After a while, I've learned he's not my first, and I got no way to contact him. I don't have his number. I hired him years ago, and he was just out in them cutting my neighbor's lawn. And he hasn't come for the last 2 weeks. My grass is so high, my HOA is going to be all over me. So if he doesn't come this week, I'm going to have to hire a new lawn crew. And that's not as easy as it used to be because I've been telling you guys, there's not as many lawn crews in the neighborhoods of Florida as there were a few months ago because of the deportations. So it's not as easy to find a lawn crew as it used to be. So I'm hoping he comes this week and mows my lawn. If not, I'm going to have a difficult time. And then because there's so few lawn crews around compared to how there were a few months ago, the price of getting your lawn mowed has probably gone up quite a bit. Mow my own lawn? No, I don't think so. It's almost 100 degrees in Florida during the summer. I'm 54 years old. I'm very, very busy. No, I, I would be killing myself if I mowed my lawn. Electric mower? Yeah. What does it have the extension cord? What if you run over the extension cord? What happens? With the heat and humidity of Florida, and as busy as I am, I don't have time. The heat, when you get to be my age, gets to you, and I'm allergic to grass. So if I were to mow the lawn, I'd have all those problems. Plus, I wouldn't be able to breathe. I can't get AstroTurf. I got an HOA. Not an excuse, just a reality. I haven't mowed my lawn in like 10 years. The guy that I have now, I pay him more than he asked for. And I pay him in advance. So I've paid him for the next mowing already. So hopefully he'll come back. Hopefully he'll come back. Hiring somebody. Because usually what will happen is when one of these guys disappear on you, you just see somebody else on your street getting their lawn mowed by another lawn crew. And I go up to them and, okay. But there aren't as many now because so many of them were illegal. There's a lot to it. You got to mow the lawn, got to do the edger, got to got to trim, my landscaping and everything. There's a lot to it. Make sure you subscribe, guys, if you are new. This is where MAGA comes to talk. So this will be, if I have to hire a new lawn crew, it'll be my first lawn crew hiring since the mass deportations. Welcome from Germany. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, so those are the big issues. And we know when, talking about the Israeli-Iranian war, we know that, oh my gosh, it was just an accident. Did you hear the tire screeching? And I heard a bang. That was an accident. I don't know how far down the road, but I heard the cars collide. Did you guys hear that? I heard the tire screeching, and then I heard a faint bang. I can't see it, but I heard the boom. Oh no. What'll happen is more lawn crews will pop up. I used to know a lot of guys that had lawn crews. And some of them would have like 3, 4, 5 crews around. But with the illegals, it put that business out of business. But back to the Israeli-Iranian war, this is a bad one, right? And like I was telling you, the goal of Israel is complete regime change in Iran, complete regime change. And that's why they're taking out the leadership, and they have the Shah. They're going to put the Shah's son. They're going to put him in power. We all believe, you guys, I do, believe that about 90% of the terrorism around the world is organized and funded by Iran, right? Hamas, Hezbollah, all this stuff, right? It's Iran, isn't it? So if we have complete regime change, 100% complete regime change, 90%, I would say easily. If we have complete regime change, will that dry up these terror cells and organizations like Hezbollah and such? It's not that they'll all fade away, but they won't have the organization or the financing. All these Middle East peace talks that they've had, all these many decades, have gotten us nowhere because they've never really dealt with the main big elephant in the room, and that's Iran. And, President Trump, you could tell when he took his trip to the Middle East, he's doing things in a different way. And if he did approve, while we don't know for a fact whether he was part of the planning of this attack on Israel, on Iran by Israel. To me, it looks like his trip to the Middle East a while back was to let those leaders know what was going on. Right? Why is he so anti-Iran? I'll tell you why. One, what I just told you, 90% or so of the Islamic terrorism in the world is funded, backed, and organized by Iran. It's really Iran. Oh, I got to move my camera. Hold on. That's one reason. And in President Trump's first term, he took out the Iranian general that was the organizer and leader of the global terrorist, and they've had Iranian hit squads after him ever since. Pretty big ones, and he doesn't want that after him and his family for the rest of their lives. That's another reason. And the Middle Eastern lack of peace all these years is 100% the responsibility of Iran. Right? So, and the way that this war is being waged against Iran is in a way that wars are not typically waged. I mean, their target, somebody said a fuel depot. Their target is not a fuel depot or some airplanes or something. Their target is the leadership. They're targeting the leaders of Iran, and they believe, and they're more knowledgeable than I am and you are on this because they know all the inside of this. They believe if they take out all of the Iranian leadership that the country will collapse. And I hope they're right. And they'll be able to put in the Shah and get control. But, regime change in Iraq didn't work out too well, did it? So hopefully it works out better than the regime change in Iraq, because the entire leadership of Iraq was taken out, and we had years of this insurgency. Now, then again, we had George W. Bush, who's a war criminal liar, and Dick Cheney, two sickos. So they may have set it up so that the insurgency continued, for all I know. So, And they keep telling us that the people of Iran want to be liberated from this. I hope they are right. I hope they're right. I hope it works out. I mean, there's no reason for us to be in a constant state of conflict in the Middle East. When you go through the people of the world, for the most part, we all get along. It's the governments. Name one successful regime change: the United States. We changed the regime of the American colonies from the King of England to the United States government that we currently have, the Congress, the president. An example of a successful regime change. Japan and Germany, after the Second World War, we took out their leadership, which was, in Japan, was the emperor with some bizarro theocracy that was co-governed by the military. We had regime change there. Germany, you know the story. Yeah, so, there's been successful regime changes. The reason there's been, people reference the Eisenhower farewell speech where he warned us of the military-industrial complex. And you guys should go and watch that whole speech that he gave. But, because Eisenhower was so smart. And he said, now for the first time in history, we have an industry all built on war. He said in past wars, when a war would happen, factories would start making cannons or swords or something. Now it's a whole thing all the time. And he goes into a lot of detail, and I can't remember the number he gave, but he actually gave the percentage of the U.S. economy at that time. Remember, that was his farewell speech when President Kennedy was president-elect. He gave the percentage of the American economy that was based on that. And, so the reason that these wars, Korea, Vietnam, and since, have not been wars that we've won in the traditional sense is because the military-industrial complex has so much influence over the leaders of our country and our allies that they never want these issues resolved. I mean, the Korean War was one of the wars that they, if you watch the Great Army Parade last night, they use this term, which I've not heard used in a while, but it's true. The Korean War is often referred to as the Forgotten War, and that one was a pretty brutal war. Okay, I mean the Chinese were doing some big time damage. It was a rough war. People. The Korean War was not an episode of MASH, and you think it's just a coincidence that they're still in North and South Korea, that they got the DMZ at the 38th? No, they set it up that way to keep the constant conflict. And Vietnam, we didn't lose the Vietnam War. It was never meant to win. It was just to be a constant place to fight, to feed the military-industrial complex. That's it. We didn't lose a single battle in Vietnam, but the government had things set up in a way where we would never win in the Vietnam War because of the military-industrial complex. I mean, that's it. We didn't lose Vietnam. It was never meant to be won, and it was just to feed the military-industrial complex. Ukraine, similar. Wow. It's been a long time since I've heard a car without a muffler. You don't hear that very often. That's what a car sounds like without a muffler, guys. So, so I have no reason to believe that Dick Cheney and George Bush didn't set Iraq and Afghanistan up in the same way that their daddies set up Vietnam and Korea, okay, to have a constant state of conflict and war. And same goes for the Cold War as well. The Cold War is complete bullshit. I mean, here, how many Russians died in the Second World War? What's the number? It's a huge number. They took the biggest losses of any country, and that the Second World War was won. 50 million, right? 50 million or so, 30 million. Yeah, you hear these different numbers, 30, 50 million. We would not have won that war without the Russians. Or if we would have, it would have taken a lot longer. The United States and Russia won that war. The other countries got their asses kicked. We sacrificed, they sacrificed more. So the day that it ends, they're our enemy? Give me a break. Then they had this 40 years of Cold War bullshit. You know what I mean? It's all to feed the military-industrial complex. So, so back to the Israeli-Iranian war, and what I'm referring here is, the only reference we have to Middle Eastern regime change failing is Bush and Cheney in Iraq. But knowing their history and the history of that wing of the government and everything, they very well could have set it up so there was an insurgency, right? That lasted forever because they're war criminals. So if you've got a president like President Trump that is willing to not just say we're going to have regime change in Iran, but make it happen, it's possible. I mean, you guys, defeating Germany and Japan, in particular Japan, okay, because the Japanese, they believe that the emperor was a deity. And to get them to surrender shows you that it's possible with the most fanatical people there are, right? They had the kamikazes and everything. You just have to have the will to do it, right? They dropped the 2 bombs. They dropped 1 bomb. They didn't surrender. They dropped the 2nd bomb, and then they finally said, oh, man, we better give up. So if you've got a president who's willing to take it as far as it has to take to accomplish the total victory, it's possible. So we'll see. But whatever the most powerful conventional weapons are in existence, Israel's going to have access to them. And my guess would be right now their primary goal is to take out the Shah and his senior leaders. The birthday of the army was beautiful. That was the best. Yeah. Now, make sure you subscribe if you were new. And I talked about this at the beginning of the stream. I'll mention it again now. Yesterday, I went inside undercover at the No Kings protest in Fort Lauderdale. There were a couple of thousand people there. I made, which I think is my best vlog ever at that event. And I went through with this mic and interviewed these lunatics. And it's available to my paid Patreon supporters. So if you're one of my paid Patreon supporters, you already have access to the video. I uploaded it last night. And if you become a paid Patreon supporter of mine, you get access to that video. And it's right there on my Patreon page now. You'll love it. I mean, it's basically a documentary. And I caught them setting up so much fake protest crap. It was unbelievable. I was totally embedded in their thing. They had no idea. I left my MAGA hat in the car. My friend Dan, who goes on our cruises, joined me there. And we had a great time. Great time. Yes, happy Father's Day to everyone. Yeah, my daughter's coming to the house later this morning, and we're going to do some things. Mm-hmm. No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, I did change the mic cover though. I used this mic, but a different mic cover. I didn't keep the mic cover that I interviewed all these liberal lunatics on at the No Kings. But the interviews are unbelievable. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cooties would be the least of the things you wouldn't want to be exposed to from these people. When you see the video on my Patreon page, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, and the police they have there, you know, it's Fort Lauderdale. So Fort Lauderdale it's where I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. My mother lives in Fort Lauderdale. So it's so liberal. The cops are liberal. The firefighters are liberal. And the police and the firefighters were openly, especially the firefighters, supporting the No Kings lunatics. But I was most definitely undercover MAGA. They had no idea. And I interviewed all these people and the things they told me. There was one guy that I interviewed, and he was holding a sign saying, "I'm going to pee on Trump's grave." And I went up and interviewed me, and he told me his whole plan to urinate on the grave of the president, no matter where they bury him. I couldn't believe it. And he was so excited. And he made the sign with his daughter. What he was going to, the original sign said he was going to piss on his daughter. His daughter told him to change it from piss to pee. Yeah. I know. It's crazy. It was crazy. These are insane people. Who would do such a thing? America is the greatest country in the world. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hello, welcome, welcome. Make sure you subscribe, okay? This is where MAGA comes to talk. Give me a yes or no in the chat. Did you watch the Great Army Parade last night? I loved it. You know, what do you think the biggest point Trump was trying to make to the world? That parade was for the world, not just us, you know. I think the biggest point he was trying to make is the United States Army is filled with a lot of tough badasses, not a bunch of transgender social justice warriors, and don't F with us. I think that's what it was. I really do. That's exactly what it looked like to me. No doubt about it. Yep, don't mess with the USA. Exactly. And it took me a while to realize this, but in the beginning, when they had the different soldiers, there was like, there's something, you know, we haven't seen a parade like this since after the Gulf War in 1991, and I remember it a little bit, but it's been a long time. It's been over 30 years. when they were marching, I was like, there's something different about this. What's missing? They didn't have rifles. Indo Wars, $10 super chat. Thank you, thank you. Making America healthy again. Absolutely. Thank you for that super chat. Awesome. Awesome. Much appreciated. Yeah, they didn't have rifles. Now, later, some did. But usually, I guess, we haven't seen a military parade like that in so long. Maybe that's normal to be marching without the rifles, because mostly what we see is in the movies, and in the movies they have the rifles. So I don't know, but I was like, okay, now I get it. There was just something a little off, and I thought that there were no rifles. You know, one of the things, I got a call about this on Friday's live stream in the morning, and one of the things they were talking about a lot was that the roads could not handle the heavy equipment, that it would break the roads up. I didn't see anything about broken concrete, but a couple things about that. One, the streets of D.C. are heavily reinforced for heavy loads because it's the nation's capital, and it needs to be able to handle military vehicles. That's one. So I had no concern about that. And they did go around. The Army Corps of Engineers went around and they did something to reinforce manhole covers on the route. But the roads are made for military vehicles. And the other thing is these military vehicles didn't have their full loads. They didn't have ammunition and things with them, right? So they were empty. So they're lighter than they would be in a combat situation because, but I didn't see any stories about the broken concrete, that they were so concerned. I was listening to these liberals last. They were so concerned that the road crews may have to do road repairs. Yeah. Mike, $10 super sticker. Thank you so much, Mike. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. This price tag for the parade, $45 million. I don't buy that. All the soldiers are already on salary, and we own all the equipment already. So while there's gas they needed, but these vehicles have to be used to keep them functioning. You can't just have them sit on a lot at an Army base. So just a little bit of gas money. And if you notice, if you were watching the official... I stopped watching on Fox because I did not need Lawrence Jones and Emily Campagno jabbering during the whole freaking parade. I was watching on Right Side. They carried the feed. And the official parade had a great announcer explaining everything. I don't know why Emily on Fox and Lawrence Jones had to just give, they thought they were Matt Lauer with the Thanksgiving Day parade or something. It was so annoying. So I watched on Right Side. But anyway, the cost is that if you were watching on the Right Side feed where they carried the official feed, they had sponsors for that parade. So people paid to sponsor that parade, which covered at least some of the cost. Plus, it was an incredible ad for military recruitment in all branches of our service. And these soldiers in that parade, they'll be telling their grandkids about this. So I don't accept the $45 million price tag. As I said, the soldiers are on salary. We already own the equipment. A little bit of gas money. A little bit of gas money. That's it. And even that may not be too much of an expense because they have to drive these vehicles all the time anyway to keep them active. So, So the real cost is much lower than they're estimating. I think that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Indeed. Oh, that parade will save lives because it let the world know America's back. You don't think the Ayatollah was watching that? And it's like, oh my goodness, look at that, America's back and they're badasses. Of course. That parade was for the people of the world to see that America is back and we're bad as hell. Don't mess with us. Yep. The biggest deterrent is an overwhelming military. Really? You think the Iranian regime's laughing right now? I think they're looking to hide out. They're going to end up like Saddam, in a hole in the ground, covered by the lid of a styrofoam cooler. The re-enlistment ceremony was pretty cool. That was really cool. Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing. I loved it. I watched the whole thing. Yeah, I was curious about this, and I don't know the answer to this, but the president was saluting, and I noticed that the generals that were behind him didn't salute. I didn't see any of the generals saluting. Maybe that's protocol when the commander in chief is there, that they don't salute and stand, that just the president does. I'm not sure. Pete Hegg said, he doesn't salute. He's the civilian leader. The president's the commander in chief. That's a military position. Trump went to military school. He knows how to salute, believe me. We used to have military parades all the time in this country during the 4th of July and things. Yeah, I think the protocol is just the commander in chief, is what my guess is. Now, he didn't dodge the draft. Did not dodge the draft. But liberals have told us that dodging the draft was the honorable thing to do during Vietnam, so I don't quite get that. Right? That's why, remember, Carter pardoned the draft dodgers that went to Canada? Draft dodging was patriotic, according to liberals in the 60s and 70s. Now, it's dishonorable. See, most liberals don't know that. They just got their talking points that they don't understand. Some went to Canada. The Vietnam protests were fake. Oh, that was amazing. And we're going to have a kind of a redo on the 4th of July coming up. Yes. Make sure you guys subscribe, guys. And don't forget, check out my No Kings Undercover. It's really, when I put that video together at the No Kings event, when I went undercover, I interviewed all these people. And I watched it with my wife. Because, before you share a video you got to watch it, make sure you got all the editing done right. And I realized when I was watching this with my wife, and my wife said the same, that it's really a documentary. Janice, $10 super chat. Thanks so much, Janice. Appreciate that. It's really a documentary inside the No Kings event, because not only do I go through and interview all of these lunatics, and the first guy that I interviewed, just give you a little sneak peek. The first guy I interviewed, he's holding up a sign, and it says, United with LA. So I go up to him, and I ask him to tell me about my sign. He didn't even know what it said on the sign he was holding, and he told me that somebody just gave it to him. It's crazy. Yeah, I know, it was crazy. And the way he speaks, it's like they gave a sign to a homeless guy. He was so inarticulate, but he was not alone. There was one couple I was interviewing, and I was interviewing the wife, and then I went to interview the husband, and I found out the husband was a wife too. It's crazy. I was like, what? Yeah, it really caught me off guard. Oh my goodness. But again, that my documentary inside the No Kings event, there were a couple thousand people there. And I was embedded, got all the behind the scenes, got them setting up their fake chants and everything. You'll get to see it. Is available to my paid Patreon supporters. So if you become a paid Patreon supporter, which there's a link in this and every one of my videos, and it's just $5. You become a paid Patreon supporter, and you can see my No Kings documentary. You guys will love it. And it is. I like to vlog, and I don't vlog too much because I'm so busy doing, covering the news, and it's one of the best vlogs, if not the best vlog I've ever produced. Yeah. And you guys will love it. It's a little more, it's about 30 minutes long, roundabout there. Oh, it's great. Whatever homophobic is, I'm the opposite of it. I mean, who would be afraid of gay people? That means you're afraid of gays. Oh my gosh, the guy is afraid. Like I have a fear of heights, right? I'm afraid of heights. I could climb up on my roof, but I got a 1-story house. If I had a 2-story house, that would be it. That's a fear, okay? I'm afraid of heights. I'm not afraid of gay people. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so go and check that out. Well, listen, guys, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. My name's Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe, all right? I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.